The message came out of nowhere. Michael had just finished another long day at the office when his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, expecting a work update, but instead saw a text from Elaine, Lily's mother. He blinked twice. Sure he was seeing things? They hadn't spoken since Lily ended things with him nearly 8 months ago. He stared at the message again, reading every word carefully. Dinner tomorrow? Just you and me. I'd like to talk. He sat there in his car, frozen, feeling 100 questions swirled through his mind. Why now? What could she possibly want to talk about? Elaine had always been kind to him, warm, steady, and thoughtful. But this message felt personal. It wasn't casual. It wasn't small talk. It felt like something important was waiting behind those words. He almost didn't reply. After all, he had spent months trying to move on. But something in her tone felt sincere, even urgent. Before he could overthink it, his thumbs typed, "Okay, what time?" That night, he barely slept. His mind kept pulling him back to Lily, to the memories that used to make his chest tighten and his heart ache. They had loved deeply, passionately, but also imperfectly. Lily was spontaneous, emotional, full of life. He was patient and calm, sometimes too calm. When arguments happened, they never shouted. Instead, they drifted apart, quietly, painfully. The next day felt unusually long. The sky was gray, heavy with rain clouds, and by evening a drizzle coated the streets. When Michael finally parked outside Elaine's house, a rush of memories came flooding back. He had spent countless nights there, dinners, birthdays, laughter echoing through the walls. It all felt like another lifetime. He stood at the front door for a moment, hesitant before knocking. The sound of footsteps came quickly, and when the door opened, Elaine stood there, smiling softly. "Michael," she greeted, her voice warm but slightly tired. "I'm glad you came." He smiled faintly, brushing raindrops off his jacket. "It's good to see you, Elaine." C stepped aside to let him in. The house looked exactly the same. The cozy yellow light, the faint scent of vanilla candles. The photographs lined up on the mantel, Lily as a child, Lily at graduation, Lily laughing with her parents. Every photo was a reminder of what used to be. "Dinner's ready," Elaine said, leading him to the dining table. The meal looked simple but comforting. Roasted chicken, vegetables, and mashed potatoes. Michael noticed the small details. The matching plates. The folded napkins, things Lily used to tease her mom for doing like a restaurant. They sat across from each other, and for a while the only sound was the rain tapping softly against the windows. Finally, Elaine spoke. "I know this must be strange," she began, her tone calm but steady. "But I needed to see you." Michael nodded. "I admit, I was surprised," he said, trying to keep his voice light. "I wanted to talk about Lily," she continued. Watching him carefully, he froze for a second, then leaned back. "Is she okay?" Elaine nodded. "She's fine, at least on the outside. She's working, staying busy, trying to move on, but—" She paused, her expression softening. "She still talks about you, even if she doesn't realize it." Michael's jaw tightened. "She's the one who ended it, Elaine. She said she needed space." Elaine's eyes were gentle. "She said that because she thought you'd already given up. You both were hurting, and neither of you wanted to admit it." He didn't respond. He looked down at his plate, his fork unmoving. The truth in her words stung more than he expected. Elaine continued, "You two remind me of me and my husband when we were young. We loved each other, but were too stubborn to speak first. We wasted years apart because of pride. Don't make the same mistake, Michael." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "It's not that simple. We said things we can't take back." She smiled sadly. "Maybe, but the heart doesn't care about words said in pain. It only remembers what's real." The words hung in the air like the scent of rain. For the first time in months, Michael allowed himself to remember the small things: Lily's laugh when he burned pancakes, the way she'd steal his jacket on cold nights, how her head fit perfectly against his shoulder when they watched movies. He had buried those moments deep, afraid of the ache they brought. Now they returned, soft but sharp. Elaine stood, walking to the counter to pour tea. You know, she said quietly, she still keeps your old leather jacket in her closet. Says it smells like home. Michael froze. She kept it. Elaine nodded, handing him a cup. Love doesn't disappear, Michael. It hides. It waits for courage. Smiled faintly, eyes glistening. I don't know if she'd even want to see me. Elaine looked at him with a knowing expression. Maybe she's waiting for you to try. The dinner continued with lighter conversation, old memories, stories, and a few shared laughs. But under every word was a pulse of emotion neither of them ignored. When it was time to leave, Michael stood near the door. Unsure of what to say, Elaine reached out, gently placing her hand on his arm. If you still love her, she said softly, don't wait for the right time. Just find the courage to tell her. He nodded slowly, voice quiet. Thank you, Elaine, for everything. She smiled. You were always good for her, Michael. Don't forget that. As he stepped out into the rain, the cool drops hit his face like a reminder of something new, a beginning hidden inside an ending. He got into his car, sat still for a long moment, and replayed her words in his mind. Love hides. It waits for courage. The windshield wipers moved rhythmically, and through the blur of rain, Michael could almost see Lily's face. The warmth in her eyes. The sadness she tried to hide. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was certain, that dinner had stirred something inside him. A quiet flame that had never truly gone out. He drove off into the rain, unaware that while he was deciding what to do next, Lily was sitting in her apartment across town, staring at her phone, reading a message from her mother that said, I had dinner with Michael tonight. And that single text would change everything that came after. Lily stared at her phone, reading the message from her mother again and again. I had dinner with Michael tonight. Her heart skipped. For months she had avoided hearing his name, but now it echoed in her chest like a forgotten melody. Why would her mom meet him? What could they possibly talk about? She put her phone down, tried to ignore it, but the thought wouldn't fade. The curiosity, the confusion, and that faint ache that still hadn't gone away. The rain outside made the city lights blur. Lily wrapped herself in a blanket, sat by the window, and tried to focus on her work. But her mind kept wandering back to him. Michael, calm/thoughtful Michael, the man who always remembered the little things. She missed the quiet moments they shared more than she ever admitted. How he would bring her coffee just the way she liked, or listen when she was overwhelmed. They didn't break up because of a fight. It was more like two people drifting apart, both afraid to admit they still needed each other. The next morning, she visited her mom, hoping to casually bring it up. But the moment she stepped into the kitchen, Elaine's knowing smile told her everything. You got my message, her mom said, pouring her coffee. Lily sighed. You could have warned me, Mom. Elaine smiled softly. Would you have come if I did? Lily shook her head, staring into her cup. Why did you have dinner with him? Because someone had to do what you two wouldn't talk, Elaine said calmly. He's not the same, Lily. He still cares. Lily looked up, her voice quiet. He moved on. Her mother raised an eyebrow. Did he tell you that, or are you just guessing? Lily hesitated. Deep down, she knew the answer. Guessing, she admitted. Elaine reached across the table, placing her hand over her daughter's. Honey, love doesn't disappear. Sometimes people just forget how to see it. Maybe it's time you remind yourselves. Later that evening, while driving home, Lily's mind was a storm. She thought about reaching out, but pride stopped her. Every time she opened her phone, her fingers hovered over his name, then pulled back. She didn't want to look desperate. Yet when she stopped at a red light, she whispered to herself, what if he's waiting for me too? Meanwhile, Michael couldn't get Elaine's words out of his head. All day at work, his thoughts kept drifting to Lily. By evening, he gave in. He parked near the old bookstore where they used to meet on Saturdays and texted her, Hey, Lily, your mom invited me to dinner yesterday. It was nice. Hope you're doing okay? He stared at the message before pressing send. A wave of nerves hit him. He hadn't texted her in months. Maybe she'd ignore him. Maybe she'd reply coldly. But a few minutes later, his phone buzzed. Hey, yeah, she told me. I'm glad you went. I'm doing fine. You? It was short, polite, but it was something. Michael smiled slightly. I'm good. Been keeping busy. Coffee, sometime? He typed before he could overthink. This time, her reply came slower. The typing dots appeared, vanished, then came back again. Finally, the message appeared. Coffee sounds fine. Michael exhaled, heart pounding. It wasn't a promise. But it was a door, one he thought had been closed forever. They met 2 days later at a small cafe near the lake. The place looked almost the same. The same wooden tables, the same warm smell of roasted beans. When Lily walked in, Michael felt his chest tighten. She looked different, calmer, stronger. Yet her smile still carried that spark. He remembered. Hey, he said, standing awkwardly. Hey, she replied with a small smile, sitting across from him. For a moment, they just looked at each other. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was full of unspoken memories. How's work? She asked, breaking the quiet. Busy as always, he said, smiling. You? Same. My students keep me on my toes. Kel nodded. You were always great with kids. That simple sentence softened her expression. You remembered that? I remember everything, he said honestly. The words made her look away for a moment. You shouldn't. Maybe not, he said gently, but I do. They talked for nearly 2 hours about work, life, and random things that didn't matter, but somehow meant everything. There was laughter, a few pauses, and that familiar comfort that felt like home. But beneath it all, something unspoken still lingered. The question of why they let it fall apart. When they stepped outside, sky was painted in shades of orange and gold. The air was cool, calm. As they walked to their cars, Michael finally said, Lily, can I ask you something? She turned, What is it? Back then, he began carefully. Did you really want to end it? Or were you just tired? She took a breath. I was tired, she admitted. But not of you. I was tired of feeling like we were growing in different directions. You were always so patient, so calm. I felt like I was the only one feeling everything. He nodded slowly, and I thought giving you space was helping. Lily smiled faintly. We both made the same mistake, didn't we? Michael stepped closer, eyes soft. Maybe, but we don't have to make it again. For a second, their eyes locked, and it felt like time paused. Then Lily broke the moment, smiling lightly. Let's not rush anything, okay? He nodded. Of course. As they said goodbye. Something had shifted, a fragile connection. Fragile, but real. That night, Lily found herself smiling for no reason as she scrolled through old photos, the ones she never had the heart to delete. Michael did the same, staring at an old picture of them at the lake, laughing with wind in their hair. Neither of them said it out loud, but they both knew the distance between them was smaller now. A few days later, Elaine called her daughter. So she asked casually, How did coffee go? Lily chuckled softly. You set me up, didn't you? Elaine laughed. You're welcome, Mom. Lily said, voice soft. Thank you. You two belong together, Elaine said warmly. Sometimes people just need a little push, okay? And as Lily hung up the phone, she couldn't help but feel that maybe, just maybe, her mother had been right all along. That night, when Lily checked her phone one last time before bed, there was a message from Michael waiting for her. I had a good time today. Feels like we found something again, Sis smiled. Typing back, maybe we did. And for the first time in a long while, she fell asleep with peace in her heart, unaware that the real test of their second chance was yet to come. Days turned into weeks, and Lily and Michael slowly found their way back into each other's lives. It started with short coffee breaks, then long evening walks. Every time they met, the air between them felt easier, lighter. There was no talk about the past, no blame, just quiet smiles and the comfort of being together again. But beneath their calm surface, both knew that rebuilding what they once had would take more than warm memories. It needed trust, honesty, and courage. One Saturday, Michael invited Lily to help him decorate his new apartment. She hesitated at first, but agreed. When she arrived, she was surprised to see how simple his place was. Neat, but empty. Like he hadn't allowed himself to make it a home. "You really live like this?" she teased, picking up an unopened box. He laughed. "What can I say? I've been waiting for someone with better taste. I spent hours unpacking, arranging books, and hanging photos." Lily stopped at one picture, the two of them from years ago, laughing in the rain. "You kept this?" she asked softly. Michael looked up. "I almost threw it away once, but I couldn't. Every time I tried, it just felt wrong." Lily smiled faintly. Maybe it was waiting for today, okay? As they worked, their laughter filled the room. For the first time in a long while, Lily felt a sense of peace. Yet that night when she got home, she couldn't shake a quiet fear. What if they were just chasing nostalgia? What if the past repeated itself? A few days later, Michael noticed she had grown distant. Her replies became shorter, her tone quieter. Finally, he asked her to meet him at their favorite lake spot, the same one where they used to sit for hours and dream. When she arrived, the wind was soft, the sun dipping low. He didn't waste time. "You've been quiet lately," he said. "Did I do something wrong?" Lily shook her head. "No, it's not that. I'm just scared." "Of what?" "Of us," she said, her eyes meeting his. "Last time, we fell apart because we stopped talking about what scared us. I don't want to do that again. I need to know we're not just trying to fix old memories." Michael stepped closer. "We're not," he said firmly. "We're building something new. But that can't happen if we keep looking backward." Lily took a deep breath, her voice trembling slightly. "Then promise me we'll be honest always." "Promise," he said, without hesitation. They stood there, the silence filled with something real. The wind carried the smell of rain, the same scent that once marked the start of their story. After that day, things felt different, steadier. They learned to balance each other's worlds again. When Lily had late nights grading papers, Michael would drop by with coffee. When he got overwhelmed at work, she'd bring him dinner and make him laugh. Little by little, the cracks that once tore them apart began to close. One evening, he attended a small gathering at Lily's friend's house. Everyone was surprised to see them together again. "Back from the past, huh?" a friend joked. Lily blushed, but Michael just smiled. Sometimes the best things are worth finding twice. Later that night, as they drove home, Lily looked at him and said, "You really mean that?" He glanced at her with a smile. Every word. The next few months passed like a quiet dream. Their connection grew stronger, deeper. It wasn't the same rush as before. It was calmer, more real. They talked about everything: work, family, the future. But just when everything seemed perfect, life threw a new challenge their way. Michael got an offer for a promotion, one that required him to move to another city. It was the opportunity he had been waiting for, something he had worked toward for years. When he told Lily, her smile faltered for a moment. "That's amazing," she said softly. "You deserve it." He looked at her carefully. "It means I'd have to move in a few months." Lily forced a smile. "I know, Lily. I don't want to lose what we have again," she sighed. "Then maybe we don't have to. Long distance can work." He frowned. "We both know how that goes." She looked at him with quiet sadness. "Michael, I want you to take this job. Don't hold back because of me. If we're really meant to last, we'll find a way." He didn't argue. He just nodded, though his heart felt heavy. In the following weeks, they tried to make the most of their time. Every moment mattered: cooking together, late-night talks, drives with no destination. They didn't talk about the move again, but it lingered like a shadow behind every smile. On Michael's last night before leaving, he came to see her. They sat by the same lake, the water calm under the moonlight. "I don't know what's going to happen," he said quietly, "but I know one thing. I'm not letting go this time." Lily's eyes glistened. "Then don't." He reached for her hand, holding it tight. "We'll call, we'll visit, we'll make it work. I'm not giving up." She smiled through her tears. "You better not." They hugged, a long, silent embrace that said everything words couldn't. Months passed. The distance wasn't easy, but they stayed connected. Every video call, every shared photo, every late-night message reminded them why they were fighting for it. There were moments of doubt, moments when they missed each other too much, but neither gave up. Then one evening, Michael surprised her. She came home from work to find him standing at her doorstep, holding flowers and that same soft smile she had fallen for. "Couldn't stay away," he said. Lily froze, then laughed, tears filling her eyes. "You're supposed to be 3 hours away." "I asked for a transfer back," he said. "Turns out some things are more important than titles." She didn't say a word. She just stepped forward and hugged him tight as the sun set behind them. It felt like everything had come full circle. Not the same as before, but better, stronger, real, later. Sitting together on the couch, Lily rested her head on his shoulder. "So," she said softly, "what now?" Michael smiled, looking down at her. "Now we live the life we almost lost. For the first time in years." They both felt like they were exactly where they belonged, not in the past. Not in the dream of what could have been, but in the quiet truth of what was love that endured. Winter arrived softly that year. Snow covered the small town like a quiet blanket, and Christmas lights glowed in every window. Lily stood by her living room window, watching the first flakes fall, a cup of hot cocoa in her hands. It had been almost 6 months since Michael came back. Life had slowly fallen into place again. Dinners together, weekend trips, laughter that filled the house. But deep down, she knew this peace had been hard-earned. Built from forgiveness and understanding, Michael entered the room, brushing snow off his coat. "You're up early," he said, his voice warm. She smiled. "Couldn't sleep?" "The snow's too pretty." He came up behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her shoulders. "It feels good to be home, doesn't it?" She nodded, leaning back into him. "Sometimes I still can't believe we made it here," he chuckled. "Neither can I, but I'm not going anywhere again." Their life together wasn't perfect, but it was real. They still had small arguments about bills, work, little things, but instead of walking away, they talked. They learned to listen, to meet halfway. Michael often said the second chance had taught him that love wasn't about grand gestures, but quiet consistency. Lily agreed. For her, it was about feeling seen again, about knowing that someone was choosing her every day. One evening, Michael came home later than usual. He looked nervous, his hands fidgeting with something in his pocket. "Lily," he said, "can we talk?" She frowned slightly. "Of course." "What's wrong?" He took a deep breath and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know we've done this before," he began, "but this time I want it to mean something more. Not as a promise to fix the past, but to keep building the future." Lily's eyes widened as he knelt down. "I lost you once because I didn't understand what real love meant," he said. "Now I do. I want to marry you again, for who we are now, not who we were." Her hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "You really mean this?" He smiled more than anything. She didn't need to think twice. "Yes, Michael, 1,000 times yes." They laughed through their tears, the kind of laughter that only comes after years of pain, healing, and rediscovery. The next morning, their friends came over for brunch, and when Lily told them the news, everyone cheered. "You two are proof love can survive anything." Her friend Emma said, in the following weeks, the couple planned a small ceremony. Nothing fancy, just close friends, family, and a quiet garden filled with fairy lights. Lily's mother helped her pick out a simple white dress, smiling as she said, "You look happier this time." "I am," Lily admitted, "because I know who I am now." The wedding day arrived with golden sunlight and a soft breeze. Michael stood at the end of the aisle, his heart pounding as Lily walked toward him. Every step she took reminded him of everything they had survived, the distance, the heartbreak, the time apart. When she finally reached him, he whispered, "You're still the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The ceremony was short, sweet, and full of emotion. As they exchanged vows, there wasn't a single person who didn't tear up. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Michael leaned forward. holding her close, gentle, grateful. Certain, after the ceremony, they danced under the open sky, surrounded by laughter and music. Their friends toasted to their journey, and even Lily's mother, who had once doubted they'd find happiness again, smiled proudly. Later that night, when everyone left, the couple sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket. The stars shimmered above and the world felt still. "Do you ever think about how close we came to losing everything?" Lily asked quietly. Michael nodded. "Every day. And that's what keeps me trying." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "That's all I ever wanted." Years went by and their life remained full. Not perfect, but honest. They bought a small house near the lake where they first confessed their fears. It became their sanctuary. Lily filled it with books and flowers, while Michael built a small workshop out back. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, they'd sit on the porch and watch the sun go down, holding hands in comfortable silence. One summer evening, Emma came to visit. Watching them together, she laughed softly. "You two are like a movie ending that never really ends." Lily smiled. "That's because real love isn't about endings. It's about choosing to stay." Michael squeezed her hand, agreeing. Every single day. Even as time passed and life changed, that promise stayed true. They supported each other through challenges, career shifts, family losses, even moments of doubt. But through it all, they had learned one thing. Love doesn't fade when it's real. It evolves. On their 10th anniversary, Michael surprised Lily with a trip back to the same lake where everything began. He brought a small picnic and an old photo album. They flipped through the pages together, from their first date to their wedding, their travels, their quiet Sundays at home. Lily looked at one picture where they were dancing barefoot in the living room, laughing uncontrollably. "We've had quite a story, haven't we?" she said. Michael smiled. "And it's still being written." They sat together, watching the reflection of the setting sun on the water. For a long moment, neither spoke. There was no need. Everything that mattered was already understood. Forgiveness, patience, love, and the courage to begin again. Finally, Lily whispered, "Thank you for finding your way back to me." He turned to her, eyes soft. "I never really left. I just had to find my way home." And in that quiet evening glow, surrounded by the sound of the wind and the rustle of leaves, Lily realized something she had always known deep down. Love wasn't about avoiding storms, but learning to dance through them hand in hand. Their story had come full circle, from heartbreak to healing, from distance to closeness, from fear to faith. And as they sat there, wrapped in warmth and memory, it felt like the universe had finally whispered the words they had both been waiting to hear. "You made it."